to the McPherson Church of the Brethren. We are so thankful to have you joining us today. If you are watching us from Channel 13 or online, we welcome you as well. Will you please stand and greet one another?
Have any announcements or guests they would like to introduce at this time?
Good morning, I'm James. I'm the choir director at McPherson College. I want to personally invite you to a concert today right after the potluck. That was unplanned, but very fortuitous. It's at 2 o'clock, and there's two reasons why I want you to come. One is because I have a very itchy tux on, and if I'm going to do that, you need to be there. And secondly, the music is amazing. The choir sounds the best since I've gotten here. They're singing so musically and with such heart on a series of Broadway show tunes with rhythm section, including Winston Stauffer on percussion, Jeremy Hanna on guitar, Ryan Mackey on bass, and then a series of African drumming instruments too. So please join us at 2. Thank you.
Good morning, my name's Ann Kirshner, and as many of you know, our CCS group did finally arrive home yesterday. For those of you who don't know, they actually had a 24-hour delay leaving for CCS, and we actually had to get them to Kansas City rather than Wichita to fly out. So we thank those that provided vehicles and drivers to make that happen. But then on the way home, we had some additional delays that basically ended up sending 13 individuals home on, I think, 6 or 7 different flights. My daughter was the last one, actually left alone in Washington, D.C. by her mother's blessing, but she actually ended up spending the night in St. Louis with a friend. So long story short, and you'll probably hear more of their story today, the Brethren Circle is an amazing thing. And so on behalf of the youth team and the parents that were worried about their children, we thank our sponsors, Jerry and Carlene and Shane, for keeping them safe. But also you need to know that Brethren Circle just kept expanding and expanding. We had people on call to pick up kids to make sure they were safe. Everyone flew back into Kansas City rather than Wichita except Hannah, so we had to get an additional van, we had to get additional drivers. It was a long, long weekend. Catherine Whitaker, her next job is travel coordinator. So thank you to this church family and the extended Brethren Volunteer Service. They were ready to provide housing. The national office was on board with supporting our youth. Our college friend actually is the one who housed Hannah, so the McPherson College Circle got pulled in. So a pretty amazing week for these kids. Despite the awful travel situation, I know they had a fantastic time. You're going to hear their stories today. So again, thank you to everyone who were worried about our children, and those who didn't know, now you know what it was all about. And now on a positive note, wearing a different hat, we are recognizing our seniors today during the potluck, but the families of those seniors, high school seniors, would like to invite the church family to yet another reception next week so that you'll be able to visit one-on-one with the graduates. They'll have their tables set up so you'll see their successes. And those seniors include Ben Hopkins, Jace Kinnaman, Hannah Kirshner, Isaiah Moyer, Lindy Reynolds, Laura Olominick, and Grace Von Ossel. So please join us next Sunday from 2 to 4 in the church basement.
Susie Sugart here. I would like to introduce my good friend Jennifer. She's just moved back to Kansas and is getting settled in, and I was so excited to bring her and introduce her to all of you. So, there you go.
Hi, I'm Kara Hudson. I have two announcements this morning. First of all, I will be presenting my senior research project tomorrow. There are 3 English majors graduating this year from McPherson College, and we are starting our presentations at 6. I am going third, so I probably will not be starting until about 6:40, but I would encourage you that if you're interested, please come and listen to all 3. My topic is the Book of Esther. The title of my presentation is The Rebel Queen, so if that sounds interesting to you, please come. My second announcement is this is Inscribe Creative Journal. This is a big project that I have been working on for my entire college career. One of the things that I have done at McPherson College is helped with Carrie Snell, helped found the Rogue Writers Club and this journal to give students a way of sharing their creative talents. So this semester was our first printed issue, and I do have some copies in the foyer for contributors, which we do have some people in the congregation who contributed. They're free, and just for everybody else, we're just asking for free will donation. So please pick one of these up if you're interested in that. Thanks.
Francis Hendricks. I have two sort of announcements. Yesterday, I returned from the district men's retreat, and there were 10 of us there, 8 of us from this church. We decided that we needed to do some long-term planning, and there are 5 of us from this congregation who are going to be working and planning the next retreat, but it's not too early to put it on your calendar for next March. The actual announcement for this week is from the Missionary Baptist Church, our neighbors on 1300 East Kansas. They're having an old revival meeting Wednesday night, Thursday night, and Friday night of this week, 7 o'clock, and they wanted to have this announced here this morning. I plan to go on Friday evening. If anyone else would like to go with us, you're welcome to do so. But it may be a little bit out of your comfort zone, but I'm sure it'll be an inspirational and enlightening experience. Some of you know Craig Hart. His 2 brothers will be the primary speakers during this revival. So, thank you.
Please rise for the call to worship and remain standing for the opening song. Blessed are you who seek unity in the Spirit of God. Blessed are you who seek to sit in the presence of our Creator. Blessed are you when you do not seek revenge. Blessed are you when you offer the peace of God. We desire peace, and we run after it. Blessed are you, and you will be a blessing. Thanks be to God. Amen.
Amen. Finally, all of you have unity of spirit, sympathy, love for one another, a tender heart, and a humble mind.
Followers of Jesus, be unified, care for one another, serve each other, be compassionate, and forgive each other.
Sisters and brothers, let us be one faith, one Lord, one body. Let us look out for each other. Let us be slow to anger and quick to forgive each other.
Finally, all of you have unity of spirit, sympathy, love for one another, a tender heart, and a humble mind.
Do not repay evil for evil or abuse for abuse, but,
on the contrary, repay with a blessing.
Family of God, be different. Instead of an eye for an eye, instead of seeking revenge, instead of hurting those who hurt you.
repay with a blessing.
Repay with a blessing?
Jesus teaches us that we are not to repay evil for evil or abuse for abuse, but on the contrary, repay with a blessing.
We are supposed to bless those who hurt us.
We are supposed to pray for those who persecute us.
Do not repay evil for evil or abuse for abuse, but
on the contrary, repay with a blessing.
It is for this that you were called, that you might inherit a blessing.
We were called.
God called each one of us.
Sisters and brothers, we were called for such a time as this.
Do not repay evil for evil or abuse for abuse, but on the contrary, repay with a blessing.
It is for this that we were called, that we might inherit a blessing.
Do not repay evil for evil or abuse for abuse, but on the contrary, bless each other, even those who hurt you, because it is for this very reason we have been called, and this is how we will receive our blessing.
We will receive our blessing because we bless others.
We will experience God's peace when we show peace to others.
We will know the power of God's love when we love each other.
We will be closer to God than ever before when we forgive.
It is for this that you were called, that you might inherit a blessing for
those who desire life and desire to see good days.
Those who want to live a full life and live well into older age.
Those who want to enjoy the journey and a lot of adventures along the way.
It is for this that you were called, that you might inherit a blessing for
those who desire life and desire to see good days. Let them keep their tongues from evil and their lips from deceit.
For those who want to live a full life must be honest and kind. They must speak life into each other.
For those who want life to be wild, God-infused adventure, they must be kind and offer loving words to other people.
For those who seek God, this is how God will be found. Offer a kind word to another person and be truthful.
Those who desire life and desire to see good days keep their tongues from evil and their lips from speaking deceit.
Let them turn away from the evil and do good. Let them seek peace and pursue it.
Those who desire life and desire to see good days, let them keep their tongues from evil and their lips from speaking deceit, and
let them turn away from evil and do good. Let them seek peace and pursue it.
If you want a full life, seek peace.
If you want a happy life, pursue peace.
If you want a whole life, chase after peace.
If you want a God-filled, Spirit-fused, Jesus-led life, seek peace, pursue peace, live peace.
For the eyes of the Lord are on the righteous.
For God watches over all of creation.
For God sees everything that is going on, and God's ears are open to all prayers.
For the eyes of the Lord are on the righteous.
And God hears their prayers. The eyes of God are upon us all, and God listens to our prayers. Amen.
Hi, I'm Hannah Kirshner. My parents are Shane and Ann Kirshner, and I've attended this church my entire life. This church has always taught me to accept everyone for who they are. At school, I've always felt like an outcast because of my liberal views. By going to Camp Colorado, I feel welcomed and accepted for who I am. This year will be my 10th and final year as a camper, but I plan on continuing going to Camp Colorado as a counselor. Thank you for accepting me for me. In the fall, I will be attending Truman State University. I have no idea what I'm going to major in, but I'm going to minor in Spanish.
Hi, I'm Isaiah Moyer. My parents are Forrest and Nancy Moyer, but you all probably know me from Judy and Ed Butler. I'm their grandson, or one of the five, or actually there's more. But so this church has meant a lot to me because I've been going here since I've been real little. I remember my grandpa always picking me up, taking me here in the morning when I was smaller. I always went to Vacation Bible School, but I haven't ever gone to camp before. So this CCS trip that I've gone on actually meant quite a bit to see the wider view of the congregation and what we're about, and pretty much just widen my view. And I believe I'm going to Mac College this next chapter of my life, and looking at majoring in business, because I don't really know what I want to do. So, thank you.
Brethren colleges have for project A Greater Gift, OEP, Disaster Relief, Church World Service, New Community Project, and Haiti Medical and Haiti Water projects. We have made an impact. We continue to be the hands and feet of Jesus, and we are thankful. But there is work to do, and your gifts enable us to respond to God's call, to find our path, to seek peace and pursue it. Your gifts paved the way for us to stand here, leading and sharing our spiritual gifts. And your gifts ensure that the next generation of students will have the same opportunity to be blessed and to be a blessing. Will the ushers please come forward to receive our offerings of love and unity?
Ben Hopkins will be playing the offering music, and it is Tramp, Tramp, Tramp by Delamonte.
Creative God, thank you for entrusting us with the delicate nature of ministry. Thank you for equipping us with the call to serve. Thank you for enabling us to be your hands and feet. Use these gifts, O God. Use them to prepare us to be folks who pursue peace. Use them to assist us in restoring relationships, and use them to help us live lives of love. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. Will the children please come forward for the children's story?
Good morning. How is everyone this morning? That's good. Okay, I've got a book for you guys. Are you ready? It's called All Are Welcome. And everyone in a space where they can see? Can you see, Kennison? Okay. Okay. All are welcome. Whoa. Pencils sharpened in their case, bells are ringing, let's make haste. School's beginning, dreams to chase, all are welcome here. No matter how you start your day, what you wear, when you play, or if you come from far away, all are welcome here. Do you want to see the pictures? No? Okay. In our classroom, safe and sound, fears are lost and hope is found. Raise your hand, we'll go around, all are welcome here. Gather now, let's all take part. We'll play music, we'll make art. We'll share stories from the heart. All are welcome here. Time for lunch, what a spread. A dozen different kinds of bread. Pass it around till everyone's fed. All are welcome here. Open doors, rush outside. We will swing, we will slide. We'll have fun side by side. All are welcome here. We're part of a community. Our strength is our diversity, a shelter from adversity. All are welcome here. Those are some big words. We'll learn from each other, special talents we'll uncover. There's a big world to discover. All are welcome here. See the dragon? So much to learn, so much to do. And when the busy day is through, can't wait to come back, start anew. All are welcome here. Head for home to get some rest and greet tomorrow ready and fresh. Our time together is the best. All are welcome here. You have a place here. Whoa, I can't turn the page. Can you help me with this one? You are welcome here. That's it, that's the end of the book. Okay, now you guys can go back to your parents and remember that you are welcome in this church. Bye.
Hi, my name is Grace Van Osselt. My parents are Alan and Deb Van Osselt, and my grandparents are Elsie and Ken Holderried and Jan and Meg Van Osselt. I've been associated with the Church of the Brethren since I was born, and became a member when I was 12, I think. Don't have the dates right yet. I've been going to camp for as long as I can remember, and Christmas Eve services are always fun when we sing with candlelight. I've played in the choir. I've sung in the choir, and gone to Sunday school and done a bunch of other stuff that this church has helped me connect widely with the denominational community and just within this community as well. I'm going to McPherson College to major in something that's not math or medical school. And I'm moving a whole 3 blocks away from my house, so really getting out of town. So that's me, so I'm going to give it to Lindy now. Have fun.
I'm Lindy Reynolds. My parents are Brian and Kristen Reynolds. I started this at this congregation also when I was born. I was instantly accepted by everyone, and I've felt accepted throughout the years that I've been here, and that's something really amazing about this church. I went to preschool here with Grace and Hannah Kirshner, and we've remained good friends throughout our lives. Oh, yeah, him too. Okay. I also remember doing things like Vacation Bible School and going to Kingdom Kids Sunday School. And I don't remember, Vacation Bible School wasn't amazing for me, but I always remember people being welcoming, so that was nice. I really started enjoying the church when I got into junior high youth group. I loved spending time with friends and being with Jerry, talking about church stuff. And we always were involved in volunteer opportunities, whether it was at the All-Minix or otherwise. And by the time I made it to senior high, I loved the group that I was with, all of my friends and everything. And yeah, Wednesday evenings were just 10 times better because of youth group. So there you go. Oh, I'm going to Mac too, also.
For those that don't know, Lindy's going to major in comedy and do stand-up for the rest of her lives. If you have a chance to spend time with her, she will definitely make you laugh. And Jason, nobody can forget you. You're epic. All right? At this moment, we're going to ask the CCSers to come up, and they're going to do a little recap of our rather amazing adventure there and back again, to quote the Hobbit. And Shane will facilitate and lead the conversation, but you'll get a chance to sort of hear firsthand the experience that these students had. We're minus a couple. Laura Olaminik is unable to be here because she got called into work. She was gracious to fill in for somebody who couldn't find someone. So Laura, we miss you, and we appreciate your willingness to serve your employees, fellow employees. And then Christopher Malaby is not feeling well, so he's not here, and Tristan Prater is not here as well. So they're the three missing, but this is the rest of the group.
All right, each year the National Office of the Church of the Brethren hosts the Christian Citizenship Seminar, we refer to as CCS, in New York City and Washington, D.C. The week-long seminar educates the youth on a specific social justice topic, then provides the opportunity to go lobby with our legislators about that topic. This year's topic was Creative Solutions to Violent Conflicts Worldwide. Our group from our congregation included Grace, Lindy, Hannah, Laura Olaminik, Isaiah Moyer, Ira Whitaker, Christopher Malaby, and Tristan Prater. Also joining our group were Jesse Inman from Kinsley, Iowa, Danny Christ's niece, and Mulu Bannister from Hayes, a friend of the Olaminik family. We also adopted Jonas and Ethan Kingery from the San Diego area, son of Dennis Kingery, grandson of Leah and Eldred Kingery. The sponsors were me, Jerry, and Carlene, as you've heard. And so here we're going to do a little recap of how our week went. Saturday, we left the church at 6:30 in the morning to go to the Wichita airport, but due to mechanical issues on the plane, we ended up having to drive, as you heard, to Kansas City, spent the night there, so we could take an early morning flight to LaGuardia on Sunday morning. Not off to the best start, but they were good little campers, and we did okay. Special thanks to Paul Olaminik, who quick jumped in his van and drove all the way from Wichita to McPherson to Kansas City and then back on that same day. Gail and Mark Malaby also drove up. They actually spent the night, though, and they had a little vacation in Kansas City. Do you have any other comments about our trip getting to New York City? Oh, it was easy. Okay. A 3-hour delay was easy. So, all right, so we arrived at LaGuardia, and we made our way directly to the Vanderbilt YMCA on 47th Street between 2nd and 3rd Avenue. We quickly got checked in and started our sightseeing adventures of the Big Apple. Carlene and Grace opted to not do the walking tour. The rest of us ended up walking about 8 miles that day to see various sites. Instead, they went to see a Broadway show. So what were your highlights on our excursion and our trip? What did we see? What were your highlights of our walking tour of New York City?
We went to Times Square and Central Park, and we saw some sights there.
My favorite part about going to Central Park was the Imagine mosaic from John Lennon's song. That was my favorite part.
So I was part of the 2-person delegation to go see a musical. And that was very, very fun because I've been entranced with the music for this particular musical for 2 months now. And then we got to sit behind Victor Garber in Duke seats in the theater, so that was really cool.
For me, my biggest takeaways from that were seeing the cathedral downtown in New York, and then also, though it may seem shallow for someone who is far into sneaker culture, Nike just last month opened a brand new storefront that is 7 levels tall and has a whole floor dedicated to new shoes coming out. And so that was my big highlight of walking around New York.
I will speak quickly on behalf of Laura Olaminik. She was quite excited when we said this is Rockefeller Center, and that's where they film the Today Show every morning. So she must be a Today Show fan, and she got to see that. So,
It was also St. Patrick's Cathedral.
Yeah. So, that evening we went back and made our way back at the end of our. Oh, so sorry.
It's good. I'm just like Jace. But anyways, my section, or what I thought was good about New York was Times Square at night. Everything was lit up, and then we went to Ben & Jerry's and kept the ice cream tradition alive.
Brethren ice cream tradition there late night. So we made our way back to the YMCA, and we stopped at a fairly traditional, I think, New York-style pizza parlor and had our evening meal was pizza there. We then had our first official session that we missed the first session, which is the get-to-know-you one, because we were somewhere on an airplane or a hotel or something. But our first session we made it to was David Wildman, the Executive Secretary for Human Rights and Racial Justice from the United Methodist Church General Board. He introduced the students to money and militarism, and we ended that session with small groups. Do you have comments about that first evening session?
It kind of just shocked me how much money the U.S. spends each day on military weapons and such. I think it was $2 billion a day just on military weapons, and it kind of just really opened my eyes about, like, wow, that's too much money for that.
And that's like $43 million a minute, which is a number that it's very hard to comprehend because it's like, I've never seen that much money in my lifetime, and I really doubt I ever will, because I'm not going into a field that makes money, probably. And then, like, more than 50% of the income tax goes to the federal military budget, which is kind of sucky, so, yeah.
As mentioned, we ended the evening walking back to Times Square, so by the time we did our 8-mile loop and then we did our added trip back to Times Square, I think Hannah's little stepwatch indicated we got about 10 miles in that day of hiking, so we burned off that ice cream that we ate at Ben & Jerry's. So. The next Monday morning, we ended up going to the United Nations for a guided tour. So what are your memories of going to the UN?
Well, we got to walk through the General Assembly chamber while they were meeting, so that was cool. And then there was a display on Hiroshima and Nagasaki where it had a picture of it before the bomb went off and after the bomb went off, and I found that very moving. There were also several pieces of, like, teacups, and then there was a statue which had come from there and were on display in the display area.
If you look over here, there's a poster that has 17 goals, and that's kind of the UN's goals for, what does it say? Sustainable development. And so those are kind of the things that we got to see that the UN is working towards and working on achieving.
Any comments about the display that was of the indigenous peoples? The big posters? Do you remember? Yeah. Inside the front entrance of the UN, they have these wonderful, about 4-foot tall photographs of indigenous people from around the world, and some of them had displays like, this woman just recently passed away at 81. She was the last known survivor of her culture. Not just, she was the last one who spoke her language, and she had just passed away. And so we're losing languages in the world about, Jan would probably know better than I, the rate that, so many languages a year that we're losing that will never come back because the last people who ever spoke that language are dying. And so they had a nice display of some of those things.
We also really liked our guide. She was originally from Germany, but she spoke very good English, sometimes better English than we speak. And she had some interesting things to say about, like, landmines, which apparently only cost $3. And they cost like $300 to get rid of. So that was, very sobering trip.
After our time at the UN, we loaded a charter bus and we drove to Washington, D.C. that afternoon. We checked into the Hotel Harrington. We grabbed a quick bite, jumped on the metro and made our way to the Washington City Church of the Brethren for an evening session on innovations in conflict resolution, led by Leah, a woman from Nonviolent Peace Force, and then we had a brief worship service after that. Comments on our first session at the Washington City Church of the Brethren?
So some of our group made the comment that the church itself smelled like a Church of the Brethren, which was interesting, but it was very true as well. So Nonviolent Peace Force has a mission in South Sudan that Leah had been on, and they do things like walk with women out getting firewood to have an international presence, which protects them from a lot of the violence, because it turns out if you think someone with international connections is watching, you're less likely to commit violence, because there is backlash that will happen if you do.
The Nonviolence Peace Force is one of many programs that goes to foreign countries and deals with conflict in a peaceful manner. Their purpose is to kind of prevent violence from happening, so they go into these problems that might break out into violence and try to provide conversation so that they can figure out all their problems without going straight to violence.
A preemptive measure as opposed to the war, which is in some ways the easy solution. That evening, and not wanting to waste any moment of our time on our travel, the kids decided we needed to take a bit of a hike, so we got another 8 miles in that evening. We walked from the Capitol to the Washington Monument and around. The next night as well, we walked from the Washington Monument along the reflecting pool, past through the World War II Monument, the reflecting pool, down to the Lincoln Memorial, got to stand in the spot where Martin Luther King Jr. stood to give his I Have a Dream speech. We walked back through the Vietnam Memorial, and then finally back to our hotel. A couple of people jumped in a cab with Carlene, and so Lindy got her first cab ride ever, so a new experience in that sense. What else do you remember from our sightseeing portion of our time in Washington, D.C.?
Abe Lincoln's foot is bigger than my body. There's that.
Not his real foot, that's the statue, just to clarify. So.
I personally, just comparing monuments now, between the World War II and the Vietnam, I found the Vietnam monument more moving because it had all of the names instead of just like the different places where things happened. It was also like very surreal. Lindy said several times apparently,
we're actually here. Because, so many things had happened there, and I was like, we're actually here, you know?
So, yeah, that was cool.
So, a long day, but I speaking as the sponsor for the group, I was really impressed with the time, because we didn't have a schedule we could spend as long as we wanted, and I was really impressed with how long our students chose to just be in the presence of both the World War II Memorial and then the Vietnam Memorial as well. And what comment would you make about spending the week learning about a peace-oriented, nonviolent approach to conflicts and then going to see monuments dedicated to those who had died in the military? What comment do you have there?
It kind of makes me sad to, when we went to the Vietnam Memorial, it made me sad to see how many names were there, because, I'm very respectful of veterans and people who have died in war, but there are other solutions to war, and it just makes me sad that so many people have died, whereas we could have saved those people's lives by going a different approach, rather, go more peaceful than violent.
It was a good reminder for me personally what a tragic waste of life war is, and what we were there to discuss and peaceful solutions to violence, just how important that is to hopefully prevent deaths on that scale again in war.
Tuesday was another full day of education. We met with Madeline Veltura from the Stimson Center, a think tank, discussing the process that the government uses to help allocate resources for NGOs. We got a lot of vocabulary thrown at us really quickly, allocations and NGOs, non-government organizations. A lot of that came very quick to us. In the afternoon, we went with Theo Sither, the lobbyist for the Friends Committee on National Legislation, so the Quaker branch of the lobbyists in DC. The afternoon, we started drafting up our plans for how we were going to talk to our congressmen and our senators the next day. Then after dinner at an Ethiopian restaurant, another new experience for most of us in the group, we met with Jerry O'Donnell, a legislative aide for a California representative, just again talking from their perspective, what should we say, how should we say it when we start doing our lobbying. Any comments on that long day of lots of bits and pieces?
I haven't said much yet, but one thing that really struck me during the week was how we in the Church of the Brethren, of course, are against war. And I think this week helped me frame that in a more positive way in terms of let's look at alternatives and speak about nonviolent peace rather than being against war. I mean, obviously we are against war, but it helps frame the conversation a little bit better when you put it in positive terms. And the other thing that I think was stressed with all of our presenters was the fact that this is not a quick fix. This takes more than our lifetimes that we'll be working on alternatives to war, because war is a quick fix. And nonviolence, it takes years and years and years.
On Tuesday at lunchtime, some of us ate in a sushi restaurant, a nice little change from the pace of McPherson food, and then headed over to the White House. And I'm just going to leave it at that. What did you see at the White House?
Some very interesting people, to say the least.
More specific, please?
There was a dude playing the bagpipes.
Gentlemen playing bagpipes.
I didn't want
speak
sushi.
to it. I wasn't there.
So.
Oh, right.
What'd you say, Isaiah?
I didn't want sushi.
Oh, he didn't. He didn't want sushi. He went another route.
The interesting variety of people that we saw in front of the White House, seeing it really was no different than the interesting people you will meet in any large city. However, being in front of the White House, I found that for lack of a better word, the chaos and all the different views that were expressed there were very reflective of where we are right now as a country, regardless of whether you agree with the current administration or not. Something in that seemed very on point and was a good visual representation of where, at least I feel, where we are and where we have yet to go.
To get really specific, we have a gentleman at one side holding a sign that is very derogatory towards African Americans, and we have next to him, about 15 yards away approximately, some African Americans holding a sign saying, "Put up the wall." We have two other people with very decorative umbrellas with particular phrases that would not be considered positive towards certain residents of the White House. And so it was a very interesting conversation, and the students got to see what it means to be allowed freedom of speech. Carlene?
I'm going to be a little bit, well, anyway, I said, oh my goodness, we've got all the crazies out here today, don't we?
Yep. And one even had the cute sign saying, "I am Jesus," so, and did not look the part of the windows in our church. So, so interesting opportunities. Tuesday evening, we had a worship service, and then we broke into our small groups. I'm going to use this opportunity to say, who else was at CCS? Tell us about the other Church of the Brethren youth from around the nation, and thoughts and ideas there.
Well, so I was on the National Youth Cabinet this past year, and one of the other members was at CCS with us. So his name is Lucas. It was very fun to see him again. There were also people from, well, California, because they were with us, Central Illinois, Manchester, Harrisburg, Virginia, Ohio. There were a lot of people. I didn't keep track of very many names, because I'm very bad at that. But it was interesting, because like in the first session, I heard things leading me to believe that this was like some of the first steps they've taken into hearing about the nonviolent process, and steps that I have already taken in the past, like using less violent language, less violent-oriented language. So I found that interesting.
It kind of made me realize that our church is very liberal compared to other Brethren churches, which really shocked me because I kind of thought that our church was like everybody else's Brethren churches. There was a girl that was wearing a gay pride shirt, but then wearing our March for Our Lives hat. And that kind of confused me because in my opinion, like, you either support both of, like, me, I support gay pride and pro-choice. And like, to me, those things go hand in hand. Whereas for other people, it doesn't. So.
Wednesday morning, we practiced our presentations to our legislators. Folks from the Washington office of Nate, Tori, and Monica were there. And then we had our very own Senator Carlene Tyler helping us pretend that we were, she was pretending the part, and we were presenting our presentation there. Then we had the opportunity to meet with aides for Senator Moran and met with Congressman Roger Marshall himself. It was a little intimidating walking to some of those tall doored offices behind those big desks and things like that. So what was our main ask as we use our Washington, D.C. speak? What was the ask for the congressman?
So we asked our representatives to allocate funds in the fiscal 2020 year to the some bill for the, can't remember the exact bill, but it's some foreign appropriations something for nonviolent, non-armed citizen peacekeeping, and just.
It was the State and Foreign Operations and Related Programs Appropriations Bill for the fiscal year of 2020.
We had that written down when we went and talked to them. We didn't try to memorize all of that. So we took notes. We sounded better than this. How were those visits? How would you describe our visits with our congressman?
Well, with the aides for Mr. Moran, it felt like they were listening to us. They took notes and they engaged in conversations. It was a quick conversation because I think they had other people right in line behind us to talk. Yes, they were lobbyists, Lindy, but so we felt heard in that particular situation, but not as much in Representative Marshall's office, because his aide didn't necessarily take notes when we were talking, and it felt a lot like we were being entertained because we were constituents but not listened to.
With Dr. Marshall, he told us that like our church is doing a great job of, doing these peace things, and it seemed like he thought that only churches should do it and that the government shouldn't help fund these programs, that it's not the government's job for that.
Between our two visits with Moran and Marshall, we walked by the Supreme Court, and our ladies in particular were very excited to just hoping that Ruth Bader Ginsburg would come running out the front doors of the Supreme Court so they could say hi. And alas, that didn't happen. But nice to know that our students are in tune with what's happening in the world in that sense. That was not a planned stop. We did not tell them about that, but they were well aware of who Ruth Bader Ginsburg is. So that was nice to know that they're in tune with that. Wednesday afternoon, we had the chance to hit a couple of Smithsonian museums. A few of the group went to the Botanical Gardens, the rest went to the Air and Space Museum. We had a nice dinner there, and then we met with Representative Marshall again, and we got a private guided tour of the Capitol building, which was fun. What stuck out about that visit?
I loved the Whisper Room. Can you explain that one?
The Whisper Room is one of the original, I think it was the original House of Representatives before we had all of, now that we have the 400, they needed a bigger space. When we had 13 original colonies, we didn't need as big a room. And architecturally, there are just two spots that you can stand here and just talk in a normal voice, and you can hear it perfectly in the opposite corner just because the acoustics in the room. So just a neat structural item there. So what else? What else do you remember from the Capitol?
So we went to take a picture with Dr. Marshall, and Hannah and I were sitting directly next to this nice man. Anyway, after this picture, we got up and I told him that we had went to a restaurant, and I got a mint for him, and I asked if he wanted it, and he ate it right in front of me.
It was a memorable moment, I'll have to admit.
Some of us were coerced into singing God Bless America in the rotunda. Not necessarily what we wanted to do. I was among the two. Didn't know the words, but sang along anyways. And then, so it was interesting to sing in there because the artwork is it's not very kind to First Nation people or really anyone who isn't American. It was interesting to be surrounded by all the paintings that we see in our AP government textbook. And yeah, so that was cool.
I would also like to add that Dr. Marshall didn't know the words either to God Bless America.
He started the conversation by saying, "So which of you high school kids are in choir? Oh, come over here. We're going to sing God Bless America." And so it's quite interesting conversation there. And so Thursday morning, we went back to our meeting space in the Washington office, took us through a session, how do we take CCS home? Encouraging us to think of CCS as more than a one-week event in your lives. How do you turn this into something you can do? They showed us an app for our phones that it's a politics tracker, so send you updates if this is what's happening right now. You can stay in touch with particular things. Carlene, any other comments there that you'd like to make?
Not too much, except that I have been away from high school students for a while, and I just want to say that this group of students was incredible because we did meet with some rather challenging issues on the trip, and they all interacted with each other. There were no groups. They were very, I think Shane used the word fluid, moving from person to person, group to group. And when we encountered difficulties, they were very kind, very respectful, and helped us solve problems. The one little piece that I'll share is that when we encountered all the travel issues at the end, and we thought we had everything taken care of, so Shane went to Baltimore to catch his flight, and Hannah and Grace and I were left in Washington, D.C. I went and got lunch thinking, okay, this is got back and Grace's flight had been canceled. And it ended up where I had to choose within 30 seconds whether I stayed with Hannah in Washington, D.C., or whether I went with Grace to New Orleans. And I felt like the woman in the Old Testament who, had to choose between her children and had to go to King Solomon to solve the problem, only King Solomon wasn't there. And so I made the choice with the information that I had at that point in time, which was to go with Grace to New Orleans because we didn't know what was going to happen there. Also, I felt a little on the spot because we had studied nonviolent solutions all week, and as I made the decision to go, they were like trying to hurry me onto the plane, and I turned around to one of the agents and I said, "And you better take care of this girl." And she said, "Ma'am, will you please take your hands off of me?" I said, "Okay, but you better take care of this girl." So anyway, but really, thanks to the parents and the church for allowing me to go along because it was a lot of fun.
And then for the kids, and I told them you all have to answer this question. What's your one takeaway from CCS? Go.
Don't fly with Southwest.
Anybody else?
My one takeaway would be being able to connect with our congregation in a wider view, because I haven't been able to go to camp previous years, and so this was a good connection on views and bigger picture.
My takeaway was recognizing again that peace building is building a cathedral. You're not going to get it done, but you can work towards it.
My takeaway, especially being in DC, is that those high places aren't as out of reach as they may seem, and that with mindfulness and careful planning and organization, movement towards peace and the eventual goal of peace is possible, though it may seem impossible much of the time.
My takeaway is probably realizing how much people or the government spends on the military and how little they are trying for peaceful solutions to conflict.
So there you have it. Thank you very much. Just leave the chairs here.
If you'll turn into your hymnals to the very, not the very back, but in the back section, there are a bunch of prayers. And I want us to pray together our congregational responsive prayer, number 725. And it's on the overhead if you want to read along there. Please pray with me. God of guidance, quicken your Holy Spirit in our hearts and minds so we may follow what is right. Give us direction so we may know which way to choose and which to refuse, which course to claim and which to reject, which action to take and which to avoid. Enlighten our minds, purify our hearts, strengthen our wills, and lead us to live as faithful followers of Jesus all the days of our lives. Amen.
Hi, I'm Ben Hopkins. My parents are Kyle and Christy Hopkins. Might know my brother Isaac. A big part of my journey with this church has been going to church camp. If you've been to church camp, you kind of know it's just like a week-long celebration of like life and friends and spirituality. And that's just been a really big part of my spiritual growth. And I'm really thankful that I get to go one more time this summer as a senior. And I'm also gonna be able to like counsel this year too, which is gonna be really cool. I'd also just like to say thank you to this community and congregation for supporting me in everything I do, especially music like I did today. And next year I'm gonna be studying music at the University of Denver's Lamont School of Music. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jace Kinnaman. My parents are Kurt and Cindy Kinnaman. And I have been at this church since I was born, I think. And a big part of it has been church camp at Camp Colorado. And I've actually been going to that. This will be my 19th year of not missing it. My mom took me when I was less than 2 months old. And I haven't missed a year since. I came close one year, but made it up. And then it just really, that's my favorite place to be. This year I'm going to be up there for 2 weeks. And I know I'm going to be missing a lot of stuff, but it's definitely worth it because when I'm there, I just feel connected with everybody here. And I just want to say thank you because when everybody is here, they're so supportive because at school, we are kind of outcasts. Like, it may not seem like it, but we are because I know in my first 2 years of high school, I got in a lot of arguments with my friends over political issues or other things. And I kind of struggled with that a little bit because with religion, I think with what our church says, you need to be accepting of all kinds and you're meant to love one another. And I struggled with it because there are so many other people who use religion to preach hate, and I didn't really understand that. And so with how accepting our church has been of everything, I just want to say thank you all, and it's really helped me through it. And now I am going to say, would all who are able please rise for our sitting song. Oh, I'm going to Emporia State to play football and major in health and human performance. So now would you please rise for our sitting song.
Please pray with me. Guide us, O Lord, by your truth and Holy Spirit, that in your light we may see light, in your truth find freedom, and in your will discover peace through Jesus. Amen.
If you want to join us downstairs for the reception, we would gladly have you and to celebrate our graduation.